Welcome and bienvenidos to Cultural Capacity, a podcast sponsored by Educator Aid Incorporated, where our team is committed to supporting individuals and organizations on their journey of self-aware leadership, emotional wellness, and development of effective cross-cultural communications. Let's get ready to explore the following topics together by biting into them with little pieces that go really deep to examine ourselves. Topics like bias, culture, cultural psychology, cultural neuroscience, diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial equity. Our episodes are all 10 minutes or less and intended to serve as introspective tools for you as the individual leader or the teams that you're leading. Be sure to check out the links in the podcast description where you can sign up for our free quarterly subscription, Better Community, as well as tap in and submit your questions via the voice message button. Let's get ready to learn together. Hi, you all. Welcome to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast, an Educator Aid Incorporated production. I am your hostess for this particular episode, Justine Gonzalez, and we are looking forward in 2022 to welcoming even more voices. Please feel free to leave us a message with a question, or if you're interested in being one of the voices who answers questions. I know I have a lot of interest in an ongoing list right now of some powerful voices you'll be hearing from in 2022. We are just getting started with these episodes. As a reminder, you can feel free to share this on your social media. You can feel free to share this in the workplace if there's a specific episode because you keep having a question like kind of recurring come up at staff meetings, at professional learning sessions, however you want to use this for your own personal growth, as well as even in your organization. That is what it's for. It is a teaching tool to get conversations started. Pardon the email alerts. We keep it real here. But part of the purpose of this is so that you have something to get conversation going, and also something that's pretty easily digestible. One of the biggest requests I get, being in the culture as well as DEI space with my consulting firm, Educator Aid, is how do I keep these conversations, whether it's regarding self-awareness aspects or emotional leadership, so emotionally aware leadership, based in emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, anti-racism, inclusion, right? There's all these concepts, all these words out there, but how do we start to just have bite-sized pieces where we go deep and we keep it at the forefront? So for example, if you do a weekly newsletter communication with your team, include an episode and maybe ask people to be prepared to share their thoughts at the next meeting, or just to process on their own. Either way, we want you to share this as a resource. And again, our hope is that we have numerous voices and perspectives that you're hearing from, and also getting your questions answered, sometimes really tough questions. And this particular episode is personally challenging for me. It's something that for many, many years, I refused to cry in front of people. Now, this isn't a therapy session, and I have a slew of reasons, as you might as well, as to why I felt, no, I should never quote unquote, show my cards in that way, or that there was some form of weakness attached to if I publicly cried. So I no longer still have that philosophy and have put in a lot of personal work and healing just to get to this place where I'm okay if I cry, not only alone, but also in public or in front of people who I care about. So anyways, it's a big topic, but this question we want to look at is, how do I communicate my grieving in the workplace? Grief is such a huge word, and it means so many things to so many people in so many different ways. And it's one of those things that it impacts us all in one way, shape, or form. Whether it's unresolved grief in our lives, whether it's something we're working through actively, or something that's happened recently. And we know, especially in the workforce, since 2020 in particular, and as we enter into 2022, it's 2 years of a lot of collective pain and grief and trauma that many, many people have been experiencing on all different levels. So it's something worth really pausing and assessing with this episode, where you find yourself, even with your perspective on grieving. Now, I brought up an element of grief, which is tears or crying, and that's more of a obvious physical aspect. There are many people who maybe they are stoic and maybe they just don't cry in general. That does not mean that their grief is any less. It doesn't mean that they're not holding on to deep, deep pain. I've heard it put by numerous authors that grief is love with no place to go. I'll repeat that again because I think it's so profound to really ponder. Grief is simply love with no place to go. And so often when we're grieving something, whether we are grieving the death of a person we love, or we're grieving maybe losing a job or having to leave a job, or even I remember having almost a grieving process when I transitioned out of certain roles into promotions. And even that can feel a little foreign, like, oh, I miss what I used to do every day. And this is an adjustment, a good one and a blessing, but it's also a period of kind of mourning what maybe you loved or an element of what you loved before. So grief is certainly something that I think many people stray away from talking about in the workplace. But I think that when we just pretend like things don't exist and that they're not part of all of our human experience, it almost creates even more division or, I guess, apprehension of how can I be vulnerable? How can I go to, the person I report to, for example, and really share with them honestly if we don't know it's okay to talk about certain things. So I guess my charge to you as well, if you're listening and you're in a role where you're collaborating with others consistently or you're leading team meetings, is to ask yourself, how am I creating space just for people to show up as they are and without us sitting in judgment, or at least having a little bit of space at our team meetings or what have you, to kind of get a pulse check, and see how are people doing. I've also selected a couple excerpts I want to share from a beautiful book that was just released. Her father recently passed away, but she is not only a best-selling author, storyteller. She's written nonfiction, short stories, fiction, and splits her time between both Nigeria and the United States. I will do my best with name pronunciation, and I even attempted to practice, but I also have pulled up a track of her name being said correctly. So we'll see how well I do. I'm taking a risk on air here, but the author I'm about to read a quote from is named, let me try, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Let me pull up where I actually have the playback of the proper pronunciation, because it is important to me that I play this for you all.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
Okay. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Okay. So that is her name. You will know, again, she's a best-selling author. She's written such books as Americana, Half of a Yellow Sun, Purple Hibiscus, and also has a story collection called The Thing Around Your Neck, and has a nonfiction text, We Should All Be Feminists, along with plenty of other accolades, right, and awards. She's a recipient of the MacArthur Fellowship. I could go on and on, but she came out with this small text because, and I'm actually going to read an excerpt from page 67 of this short text she came out with called Notes on Grief. And she says, I am writing about my father in the past tense, and I cannot believe I am writing about my father in the past tense. On page 21, the other quote I will leave you all with to kind of chew on is, she says, "I back away from condolences. People are kind. People mean well. But knowing this does not make their words rankle less." So when we think about this and we think, man, I don't feel comfortable leading a conversation about grief. I don't feel comfortable opening it up. I have opened it up for you with this episode. I will not go down some rabbit trails of even personal grief that I've experienced, particularly in 2021. But I do know that I'm not alone. And I know that it's something we need to be talking about in the workplace. It's something we need to be making space for. And just really considering, where do we find ourselves with our own grief and how we're processing it, and who do we have to go to really connect with. So wanted to put that out there. I know some might find this a bit controversial or think, well, I'm not a therapist. Why would we talk about this at our staff meeting? It's something that I would encourage you to consider. So take care. Thank you for tuning in, and let's continue to get curiously compassionate together. Until next time. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself today and tuning in to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. We're glad you're here. If you found value in this episode, be sure to share out with your social networks. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review on Apple. You know, all the things. Finally, don't forget to take advantage of our free quarterly subscription that is in our podcast description. The link is right there. It's called Better Community, and we would love to have you join us there too. Until next time, take care.